right. If we move out west, Eli, I don't think it's quite as simple with kind of our tiers that we laid out, especially because, in my opinion, when you look at the West teams, there's more of a regular season team versus playoff team distinction. I don't think the Lakers are a regular season team, but I do think they're going to be a playoff team that, like, don't sleep on them. Same with the Clippers. Clippers are still facing some health issues, but you get into the playoffs, maybe by then, I think Kawhi will be healthy and maybe they start clicking at the right time. Who knows?
I don't know about Kawhi. If I had to bet, Kawhi is not playing this year. He's been way too conservative his whole career. He got hurt remember the season was longer last year, like time wise in the calendar. He got hurt in end of June, early July. That's not ACL injury is 9 to 12 months. So if it's end of June, then 9 months, which is early, is like what is June? So that's like April-ish, March, April. That's right around when the season ends. And then if he comes back in 9 months, ready to play in playoff basketball pretty much immediately. The playoff starts in April.
Yeah.
And we've always seen Kawhi take it slow and everything. He just got paid.
And who knows? They're basically like their margin of error is tiny. So like if they do screw up, something goes wrong, if someone gets injured, now they're out of the playoff race. At that point, you're right. Kawhi will probably just say no because the West is too competitive. So actually, that's a good point for why maybe they won't even make the playoffs. But nonetheless,
I have them in the playoffs. We'll talk about that. I think the Clippers are still going to be better than people think. But when you're talking about like contenders,
no. Well, then I guess I'll here are my teams that I think I would not be surprised if they make the finals. And it's a short, actually, it's a pretty short. It's actually not that short. Lakers, I think they're kind of my favorite. The Warriors, I would not be surprised. And then two other teams, the Nuggets and the Jazz. Those are my top 4 teams in the West, in any order, really. But I think if you told me any of those teams made the finals, I would not be shocked. Maybe addressing the elephant in the room. Let's just get to it. Phoenix. I left Phoenix off of my list. I think they're going to be the team that, we're going to look back at that finals run and we're like, oh, like that was cute and all, but like, I kind of also in my head, there's always just this hierarchy of there's kind of teams that are like legit. And there's teams that I think can really take a shot at the throne. And by that, I mean, beat a team with LeBron James and now even Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. And I'm always going to be measuring teams up to them. And the Phoenix Suns have a lot to like about their roster, but I kind of don't think they'll be able to replicate what happened last season, especially because they had a lot of kind of injury luck and some flukes that happened. So the next 2 teams out, I guess this would be 6, would be the Mavs and the Suns after my top 4 of Utah, LA, Golden State, and the Mavericks. What do you think of those first 6 kind of?
I think so. Those 6 teams you just mentioned are in my top 7. I think I have the Clippers at 6. Okay. I do think the Clippers are going to be better in the regular season than you're giving them credit for, even without Kawhi. But we'll get to them in a second. But so generally speaking, I agree with at least the teams you're talking about. I think you're sleeping on the Suns for sure. I don't think they're not, we'll get there. Spoiler, they're not my conference finals. They're not coming out of the West, in my opinion, or anything. But I do think the Suns are better than you're giving them credit for. I don't think they're just this cute story team that used, like you said last year, even though they did get lucky. There's no doubt about it. I mean, but who's to say that doesn't happen again? Other than Chris Paul being kind of old, none of those guys have ever, like Bridges, Ayton, Booker, those guys are all getting better. They've all been healthy their entire careers, relatively speaking. Cam Johnson too, like all those guys, Jay Crowder, none of those guys have ever really been hurt. So if you're trying to predict injury, which is difficult, they're on the healthier end, right? Whereas like the Warriors, the Lakers, even the Nuggets, like they don't have Jamal Murray, like all this kind of stuff. Like why not? At least in the regular season. So let me ask you though, real quick, who's your 1 seed then? Because that's probably the easiest thing to talk about. Who do you think is going to finish?
It's really tough because it's kind of what I was saying, the regular season distinction versus the playoffs. I wanted to give it to Denver. I think we talked about this actually like a few weeks ago. I really wanted it to be Denver, and I have a feeling they're going to have a big season this year, but they're missing Jamal Murray. So I
bet their season over, just for the record. So I agree with you. I bet their season over.
Okay, for the year. I like that too.
So I agree with you.
We have to talk more about them because there's lots of impact with that. But I picked Utah. Utah will be my 1 seed, and then at the Lakers, and then the Warriors, and then the Nuggets.
Okay, so I have Utah. I agree. I'm all in. That was my biggest bet this season was the Jazz over for their season win total.
Right.
I think they're an unbelievable regular season team and maybe even better than that. I think last year's playoff was a little fluky. They always run again. They get so unlucky every year.
It was disappointing. I don't know, bro. Kawhi wasn't playing. They
I understand. No, for sure. There's no excuses. No excuses. But they ran into the one team that even without Kawhi, they just like makes no sense for them. They couldn't go small, and they ran into the smallest team that can space them out and take advantage of the only thing that they don't do well. Like, regardless, that's not the point. But we're talking about regular season right now. The Jazz, I'm all in. That was my biggest bet of the year. I'm all in on the Jazz. I think they'll finish the 1 seed again. They're so damn good, and I think that they are better than people give them credit for, even in the playoffs. But whatever. I still have the Jazz. I have the Jazz at 1. I have the Lakers at 2.
All right.
Suns at 3. Nuggets 4. Warriors 5. We'll talk about that in a second. Clippers 6. Mavericks 7. And then we'll talk about play-in right after that. But I'm not in on the Warriors as much as everybody else is. I get it.
What's year they? They're
I had them at 5. I have them at 5. So relatively speaking, I mean, they're still a playoff team.
Yeah, no, sure.
I have them right below the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets are banged up. If one guy gets injured, the Nuggets fall big time. I get it. So like, if you're 4 and 5, fine, whatever. But like championship-wise, they have the 4th best odds to win the championship.
That's absurd. That's probably absurd.
Like, Draymond fell off a little bit, at least offensively last year. He's still a really good defender for sure. Steph is obviously awesome. I do think Jordan Poole, the breakout is real. So I definitely get that. I wasn't a big, if you guys remember the draft pod last year that I've blessed to join you guys with, I wasn't a big Wiseman guy last year.
Yeah.
I still think he's not as bad as he was last year. He was a young guy, hasn't played a lot, but I don't think he's going to help much this year, even still. Kuminga was one of my guys this year. I loved Kuminga and Moody. I loved both of those guys, but they're both still rookies. Kuminga's extremely raw. And then the elephant in the room is Clay. Like, we start the season in October. He's not coming back until the earliest they said was Christmas. That's 2 months. 2 months is going to be like 30 games without Clay. So if you're telling me if they go almost half the season without Klay Thompson, why is everybody saying they're automatically going to be a 2 seed? Like, I don't think they can finish strong for sure with Clay, but they're not going to have Clay. And even when they do get Clay back, I mean, I'm a big Clay guy. I loved him in the draft when he was coming out. Like, he's awesome. Obviously, he's a great guy, great player, whatever. He's 2 major leg injuries in a row. We haven't seen
in 2 years. He hasn't played. He hasn't been on an NBA court for 2 years.
We haven't seen him since the Raptors weren't champions yet.
Yeah.
Like,
that's really absurd. That was a long
We've had 3 champions be crowned since we've seen Klay Thompson play.
No. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's wild.
Technically, it was technically like a
No, you're right. That's crazy.
But technically,
this is your best argument for why I'm sleeping on Phoenix, because Phoenix should be able to sneak in there, and at least regular season wise, you're right. So maybe I should give them the edge over the Warriors. But I had the Warriors 3 and then Denver 4. So we'll see. Maybe
so first you just flip the Warriors and the Suns, which I believe in the stability of the Suns. You believe the star power of the Warriors, and I get it, but I'm out on that, relatively speaking.
Well, I do think the Warriors have more depth than they did last year, and I think in last year, I guess they missed the playoffs. They were in the play-in, but they had injuries and whatever. And Steph obviously went off towards the end of the season.
Steph is incredible.
Exactly. I'm expecting improvement from James Wiseman. I think Andrew Wiggins, he
was good. Andrew Wiggins is good.
He didn't get vaccinated.
Full stop. Andrew Wiggins is good.
And I think he took a couple years to kind of get his legs under him. I think like this year he should really be looking to have a good season. Jordan Poole's a guy who everyone kind of has been talking about in the preseason. I think he's one of the few guys, if you just look at preseason points per game, anyone who's not an all-star, it's like Tyler Hero, shout out Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole, and a few other guys. Like Jared Butler, I saw was on there. He's a rookie, but
OG was up there.
OG was up there.
He was up there.
Yeah, but Poole's a guy who's been getting buckets. So between Steph, Poole, Wiggins, those guys, I think should be able to carry them enough, offensively, and then hopefully Draymond and James Wiseman on the defensive end of the court for the first 2 months or so until Clay comes back, and that's gonna be a big challenge working him back into the fold. But then even Andre Iguodala, who maybe the on-court presence isn't going to be what it was, but I think he's a locker room guy for them for sure, especially joining a team that he's already, he won multiple championships with them. So I kind of believe in the Warriors this season, and I guess I do really like Clay, and I'm itching for him to just be able to watch him go off again. So they're a team that I believe in. But you know what, Eli, I wanted to ask you a question because you got the Clippers over the Mavericks. So we already kind of touched on the Clippers, but what do you think about the Mavericks? Like, what are your reservations with them? Not, you have them as a 7 seed, which means they're in the play-in. I'm
not crazy about it.
I would definitely not put them as a 7 this year. I think they have to be top 6. But what are your thoughts on the Mavs?
I don't know. I need to see it. I need to start seeing it. Like I was on them last year a little bit, like as much as everybody else was. Like I was really big on them in the bubble because KP was balling. So like when KP was healthy, Kristaps Porzingis, I was like all in on that. I need to see it. They haven't won a playoff series in 10 years. Like Luka's never made it out of the first round. Like he's got free throw woes. Luka's awesome, but like I just got to see it. Like at one point, are we going to stop saying the Mavericks this, the Mavericks that, and every year they're a 6 seed, every year they're a 7 seed, and then they just like lose in the first round? And yes, again, the Clippers, not only are they just really, really good, but they were the example for both of these two teams last year, the Mavericks and the Jazz, just teams that don't match up. Like the Jazz and the Mavericks don't match up well with the Clippers, right? The Clippers got not lucky in that sense, but the Clippers got the easy card there by getting teams that just don't match up well against them. So
why do you think the Mavs don't match up well with the Clippers?
Because
they've taken them to 7 games twice, 2 years in a row.
I know, and the Mavs
not 7. I guess it was 6. Wasn't it 6 the first year? Whatever. It was 6. But Kristaps was hurt in the bubble, and then they took them to 7
because the Mavs don't have the wing defenders to match up with Kawhi and with PG. They don't have the wing defenders there, and the thing that the Clippers lack is like, other than Zubac, but like they don't play him as much. Yeah. Like they can kill you by going small, and the Mavericks have nobody that can play in the paint that can punish them for being small, because Kristaps just isn't that guy. So the Clippers want you to play small and space them out, and then they want Kawhi and Paul George to go crazy. The Mavericks can't have anybody stop either of those guys, and they can't punish them for going small.
And I guess the Mavs road to being where I think they might be is just purely offense, like nothing on the defensive end really. And that's where
like the two tiny thing I said in one sentence earlier, I think Reggie Bullock and Sterling Brown, both really good pickups. Like I agree. I just think it's a deep West. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a deep NBA, which is kind of crazy that we keep saying that, but like you're making this argument understandably, but you had them at 6. The only difference is I think the Clippers are still going to be a little bit better. And I
had them at 5 actually. Oh wait, no. Yeah.
No, you had them at 6 and you said the Suns were 5. Yeah. And I think the bigger thing is.
No, I have Suns at 6. My bad. I have Suns at 6.
Okay. Well, whatever. But so we talked about it in the other end. You go from Rick Carlisle to Jason Kidd, and I'm out. Like, I'm out until I see it. Otherwise, I'm out. Like
me though, this is gonna be one of those things where like you stay too long with an organization. Like it's very hard to do that. Your voice becomes stagnant, I think. And a lot of this honestly was probably the Luka drama, and Luka was being a prima donna, and he didn't totally like Carlisle because Carlisle would pull him out midway through the first quarter, and then yada yada. And Jason Kidd, we don't really know much about him, but I think he's just going to be a player's coach. That's kind of what it seems like to me. But I think it's one of those things where that might have an impact. Like, is a guy like Luka might be a guy like LeBron, where it's like he's never played with any of the greatest coaches ever except for Eric Spoelstra, and it will work out for him. So that it'll be interesting. The Mavs are definitely a very interesting team. Like, because
I just gotta see it. I'm just done giving them the benefit of the doubt until I see it.
Yeah. So then why don't we round it out? We can talk our 8 seed and then, or you didn't give your 7 seed yet, maybe, or you have
the Mavericks are my 7. So then after that. So the team that we're missing, generally speaking, is the Blazers.
Yeah, they're my 8.
They're my 9. I think it's them and the Grizzlies. I think they're just close. I think the Grizzlies.
You got the Grizzlies at 8? Yeah. All right, give me the pitch. That's tough over Damian Lillard.
Just awesome. I don't know. Maybe this one I will admit might just be my bias. Okay. Every year the Grizzlies just draft all of the players that I love. And it makes me feel good.
They draft well.
And it makes me, exactly. It keeps making me feel good that like I think I might know what I'm doing, because the Grizzlies always agree, and the Grizzlies keep drafting guys I like, and they keep being good. So maybe I'm onto something. But I just think Ja is awesome. I think Ja is awesome, and I think that like this roster just like it makes some sense. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is ready to break out. He was voted by the GMs as like the number one guy that's going to break out this year. I've been in on him forever. And I think like assuming he's healthy, like he's the perfect guy to put next to Ja. I do think defensively they're going to struggle a little bit, but I think I'm just banking on all of their young guys just getting a little bit better. Like Desmond Bain, I think is going to be a really, really good player in this league. Jaren Jackson Jr. is about to get a little better. Xavier Tillman was a really good like second round rookie last year. I don't think he's ready yet this year, but the pick this year was Zaire Williams, who's a guy that I really liked as like a future guy because he's still young and raw. But like he can come in and light it up a little bit off the bench. He can definitely score. That's the one thing that we know he can do. Dylan Brooks, feisty. The team is just awesome. Taylor Jenkins is an awesome coach. I'm just believing that the Grizzlies are just on an upward trajectory. Like this is a little bit of a projection. I get it. I'm sure. They're the 8th seed. They were the 8th seed last year, but people think they downgraded a little bit because they traded JV Valanciunas like to move up in the draft and kind of thing. Like I get that, but I just am banking on them just everywhere, just getting a little bit better. And I'm banking on it. Yeah,
that's fair. And I would love to see them in the playoffs. It's always fun to get new teams into the fold. But I can't. I had to give the edge to the Blazers. And like, there's, with that being said, then the next two teams, I guess you have Blazers as your 9. I have the Grizzlies as my 9. And then I have the Pelicans at 10. Which honestly, yeah, you disagree with that?
Pelicans fans turn this off because I trash them every year. I'm sorry.
I don't know if we have any Pelican fan listeners, but
Alex Caleb maybe.
Oh, Alex Caleb, actually.
But like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I've never understood it.
Who's your 10?
Honestly, this is hard. Like, I think there's a very clear top 9. Like, I understand the Pelicans being 11, like 10, because like just that talent, like Zion, if he ever plays.
That's what I was gonna say. The only reason
part of the question.
10, the only reason is because of Zion Williamson. Because even looking at the roster, I'm like, they got worse than last year, I think.
Yeah, but so like I get it, like 10 seed, fine, whatever. I don't know. I hate that I'm about to do this. I'm buying the Timberwolves just a tiny bit.
I'm with you. I'm with you on
just a tiny bit.
I'm with you on that.
Just a tiny bit. I mean, they were pretty good at the end of last year. I will admit, as much as I like to pretend like I'm right all the time, like I'm just talking about the Grizzlies drafting guys I liked. I was out on Anthony Edwards. I'm wrong. Totally, just 100%. I fully admit it. I've seen enough. I'm wrong. D'Angelo Russell has never been healthy, but if he is, like, he's a good player. Like, I don't know. I don't think they're good. Like, I think this is going to be one of those things where we look at the 10 seed and we're just like, oh, like, can we only have 9 this year? Like, do we have to really watch the Timberwolves? I have the Timberwolves Mavericks as being like the 7-10, like the first team in, the last team out. Like, that's just so drastic. Like, do we really need to make the Mavericks play a play-in game to accommodate the Timberwolves? I get it. This kind of just stinks in general, but I just think they have so much talent. I love the coach. I think Chris Finch, now that he has a whole off season.
Well, yeah. What do you know about him? Because I don't really know anything about this guy.
He's an offensive wizard.
Okay.
And I think that it showed at the end of last year. I mean, the end of last year when he kind of came in the middle of like he came in about halfway through the year or whatever, like he started playing Cat in the high post a lot, and Cat's assist numbers went up because Cat's a really good passer. He just never showed it because before Finch got there, Cat was just a post up guy and a spot up guy. He was never anything else. They never ran the offense through Cat, but now they can. And he averaged like 6 assists after the All-Star game or something like that, 5 or 6 assists, something like that. Cat was awesome at the end of last year, offensively at least. I think defensively they're going to suck, and that's why they're number 10 and not higher. I think offensively, this talent on this roster is like a top 7 or 8 offense in the entire league. Like genuinely, this offensive talent is awesome. Their just defense is just horrible. But I'm just banking on Anthony Edwards, breaking out a little bit. Cat feeling a little more comfortable, after, his well-documented struggles all over the world, poor guy. And Russell hopefully being healthy. Like, I don't know.
For sure.
Everybody sucks. After 10, everybody stinks.
Yeah. And I think I gave the edge to the Pelicans, but I had the Timberwolves at number 11. So I really wouldn't be shocked if they were able to make the plan. I would actually think it'd be fun if they could, because you just look at their top 3 players like Russell, Edwards, and Towns. Those are 3 young, very talented guys. And for them to kind of really, jump out onto the scene this year, I think it's going to really come down to Cat. And he's we had very high hopes from him in 2015, which is surprising. That was when he was drafted 6 years ago now. And I think he has never fully lived up to it. And, last season, as you mentioned, that was like a very everything off the court for him was, terrible and all the families.
And they were beat up too. Like they were just really injured last year. And maybe they will again. I mean, Russell's gotten hurt a few times and Cat's been hurt a few times. So maybe that's just who they are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If I'm going to take a chance on somebody at 10, give me the star power, give me the talent, hope they stay healthy, new coach for the full off season. Let's see what happens.
And we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if Towns can really just, take it to the next level. And with that being said, Edwards also is going to have a huge impact on them.
The one quick sentence, I think the team that I think people are going to a little bit better than people think. I don't think they're a playoff. I think the Spurs are a little better than people think. So watch out for them. I don't think they're there yet. I have them at 12 still, but I don't know. I just think Pop is still there. They've got great defensive players everywhere. I think their defense is going to be dope. I just think I bet their season over. There was 28 or something. So
I'll bet the under, bro.
I don't think they're one of us is going to lose money, but it'll be you. So I just quick shout out to the Spurs. I think they're going to be a little bit better than people think.
Still not we'll keep our eyes out for them,
but I think they're a little bit better than people think.
So let's move on to the important stuff. We've been going for a while. Let's try to knock this out in the next 7 minutes. Let's do conference finals and who's making the finals. Quick explanation, and then we can hopefully just get into the MVP of the regular season, most improved, coach of the year. Or would you rather do that first? Wouldn't that make more sense actually?
Yeah, let's do awards first. There's the six major
let's just
awards.
do those three though. Or if you want to do rapid fire on each of them without.
Yeah, let's do rapid fire for all six. I think there's some really interesting ones. So who do you have as MVP?
MVP, I'm going with Luka. I picked him last year. I picked him last year. He's one of those.
I think you and I both did.
Okay, it's gonna be one of those things for me. Like even if he doesn't get it this year, I'm probably gonna pick him the next year. My dark horse would be Jokic going back to back, because I think everyone's sleeping on him. So I have Luka. I just think I'm gonna pick him every year until he wins it, because he's bound to win one. What do you think?
Yeah. So for each of these awards, I kind of have the guy that I think is gonna win. Or in one case, I have two guys I just can't pick between. And then I have a sleeper, one or two guys. My MVP pick is gonna be Durant. I like the Nets. I think the Nets are just gonna be so damn good, and I think that the MVP is a narrative award for sure. But I just feel like the more that I look at this year, I just think there's a lot of teams that are just so good. I think that the top 7 or 8 teams, just generally in the NBA, top 3 on the top 2 in the East, and then a little bit on the West. I just think they're all so good that I just don't envision this being a big narrative year. I guess is I just think at the end of the day, I think Durant is maybe the best player in the world right now. He's right up there, and he's going to be on, in my opinion, the best team in the league. And I think if there isn't some crazy big narrative or anything like that, I think people are just going to watch Durant after seeing what he did in the playoffs and just be like, Durant is the MVP. My sleeper though, and I'm kind of upset. I've been hearing a little bit of I thought this was going to be my guy where I'm just this is my sleeper. And then I keep hearing people talk about it a little bit. I'm all in on the Jazz. I just said it. And if anybody's going to break out, I think Donovan Mitchell has a chance. If there's going to be a narrative, if there's going to be a somewhat Jokic level narrative from last year, is the Jazz are really, really good again. The Nets, maybe Lakers aren't as healthy as much, and Donovan Mitchell takes another step. Every year in the playoffs, we keep seeing him take these massive steps. And they were beat up last year. They were pretty beat up towards the middle of the year. Mitchell missed a bunch of time. Conley missed a bunch of time. If Mitchell takes another step, if there's going to be a guy, I looked at it, he's 15th on odds or something. So if I'm just looking at
his odds are he's plus 3,000. I'm putting money on him. I'm sold on him actually. Yeah, because that's a beautiful value.
He's 15 on the dot. He's 15th, or he's tied for 14th with Jason Tatum. He's tied for 14th on the dot for MVP odds. If there's anybody that I think is just going to be, I said, sleeper for a reason. If he just breaks out and the Jazz are just really, really good, and Durant gets hurt and the Mavericks underperform and whatever, then why not, right? So he's my sleeper for MVP. And I keep hearing people talk about it the last week or so.
I actually haven't heard. I haven't heard that much.
And I'm really upset because I thought that was going to be my thing.
That makes more sense because I picked them to be the 1 seed. So if they're the 1 seed, I think it was one of those things where last year's numbers weren't exciting enough for us to pick him as the MVP, but he's talented enough. I wouldn't be shocked if he averaged 20.
I love Donovan Mitchell so much. So
it would be sick. It would be sick to see that. Next up, so that's MVP. Why don't we do defensive player of the year?
So defensive player of the year, I put, this is my bias, I put $5 or something, whatever, small on Bam. I just think the Heat's defense is going to be so awesome. And I think Bam last year was unbelievable, but I think the Heat asked Bam to do so much because of the rest of the team around him, like the defense, the point of attack defenders already, especially, like they switched everything last year, which made it hard on Bam. He didn't have the big rebound numbers. He didn't have the big block numbers because he was on the perimeter most of the time. But now that they have Lowry, I think their scheme is going to fit Bam a lot more. And I think Bam is just going to be awesome. I think the other guy that I would think of maybe is Embiid. Without Simmons, if the Sixers still have a really good defense, Embiid might be there. And then my sleeper, quote unquote, I put Drew Holiday. A guard hasn't won since, like a true guard hasn't won since I think Gary Payton, like 97 or something. So it's been a long, long time. But I think the narrative is starting to shift a little bit, especially after watching Drew in the Olympics just murder people. I think if there's anybody that's like not a top 3 or 4 guy, Bam, I think is 4th in odds and Embiid is like 3rd or something like that. Like
definitely.
If there's anybody else, I think Drew Holiday might turn the narrative.
What you said about the narrative with Holiday is it definitely is shifting. I think people have been talking about how much he's underrated as a defender and that guards never get looked at. I'm picking Anthony Davis. He's another guy similar to Luka. Like I feel like I've picked him so many years, every year after year after year for defensive player of the year, and he hasn't won it yet for me. But I think this will be the year. I think I'm expecting a big regular season out of him because the biggest narrative maybe going into the season is how old this Lakers roster is. They're going to need like the guys like THT and Davis to carry them during the regular season. Even Russell Westbrook to maybe a lesser extent because he is older to really carry them through the regular season. So I'm expecting him to anchor their defense.
Fair.
They're missing Caruso, which I think he was so underrated. Like he was one of the only good things going for them last year versus the Suns in the first round. But we'll see. So I got Davis for defensive player of the year. Would love Bam as a sleeper. Next up, let's do coach of the year.
So coach of the year is just always so hard because it's like by definition, like basically the coach of the year, just whichever team overperformed the most. And if we could bet who's going to overperform the most, like then they wouldn't be overperforming. So it is really hard. But my pick, I'm kind of down between 2 guys. I think Nash, with the same argument that I had with Durant, is just if they're just so good that you're just going to be like, especially navigating the Kyrie thing, if they stay a little healthy and they're just awesome. Nash, but my real pick for it, I'm going to pick Mike Malone. I think the Nuggets are going to be a little bit better than people think. I think they're going to overcome the Murray narrative, or not narrative, but the injury. I think MPJ takes a huge step. And I just think Mike Malone is a great coach. And if I had to just pick one team, then I'm just like, we all are kind of like the Nuggets are a 4 or 5 kind of seed because Murray's hurt. But if they're just awesome and then Murray comes back and they're just awesome, I think if I had to pick a team that might overperform, I would say the Nuggets.
Yeah,
so,
Malone was my second guy. I was so close to picking him, but I actually going to go with Quinn Snyder because there's kind of 2 coach of the year types. There's like we just killed everyone the entire year, and there's like overperform one. Mike Malone, definitely the overperform narrative. Michael Porter Jr., if he improves, like a lot of people might attribute that to Malone, and then even without Murray, of course, that's going to go to Malone, but I'm going to go with Quinn Snyder because I'm expecting a big regular season out of the Jazz and Donovan Mitchell. So it might be a big year just for them for their award.
So I thought about Snyder, but the knock against that is wasn't that exactly what the Jazz were last year, and he still didn't win. The Jazz were the best team in the NBA by far. They were awesome. They were dominant in the regular season, whatever. And I don't know, he just didn't get the credit that I thought. And I agree with you.
And sometimes maybe it takes a few
give it to Tibbs, who like, fine, okay, sure, the Knicks were the story, they overperformed, whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like the second kind of award, like you said, the overperforming one is the one that wins more often, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But not unfortunately.
Because sometimes you do it 2 years in a row, it starts to get more looks, and Quinn Snyder's a little underrated.
That one's just hard. Coach of the year is just so hard.
I guess most improved and then 6 man, and then that's it, right?
Rookie of the year, if you want to touch that real quick. That was.
I actually have no pick for. I didn't make a pick for rookie, but we can do. Let's do 6 man of the year.
So 6 man of the year. I don't care. I'm doing it. Tyler Hero.
All right.
I just think he's gonna. I just think he's gonna be awesome. I know, obviously, we got a little bit of a heat bias here, but in reality, like Tyler Hero has been awesome, and I think that like he's gotten a lot better. He's improved a lot, and I think again, narratives are super important. And I think the way that everybody has turned on Hero from what he was in the bubble to what he is now, and he was banged up last year and had a bad year, quote unquote, even though all of his numbers were better than they were his rookie year, which people don't want to talk about because he blew up in the bubble and then underperformed afterwards. But like, he's the perfect 6 man. He's the perfect like type of player that wins this, like the high scoring Jordan Clarkson type guys. I think he's better than that. But like in that role, that's the kind of guy that wins it. The Heat are going to be really good. He's the name, so everybody's going to see it. And if he is really good, they're going to be like, "Oh, Tyler Hero, the guy that blew up in the bubble, he's back." So I think Tyler
Jack Harlow
Hero.
song.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm gonna pick Tyler Hero. Some sleepers. I think Patty Mills, if Kyrie somehow ends up playing or whatever, Patty Mills goes back to the bench. I think he's awesome. And then Kevin Herter and Miles Bridges, I think are just guys. Like if Bridges doesn't start because of Oubre is there and Gordon Hayward if he's healthy, whatever. I just think Bridges is awesome. So Herter and Bridges are my other guys as well. But Tyler Hero is my pick.
Herter's a good pick. He actually just got an extension, 4 years,
Just got an extension.
5 million.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. A couple guys have got extensions since we've been talking. I just
Yeah.
saw a couple texts. But
I'm gonna go with. I'm actually like we'll make this a whole Tyler Hero. Just we're gonna gush about him for a little bit. I'm picking him for 6 man and most improved because
I had him on the list for most improved. I just don't think he's gonna give it.
I think I think he's gonna get one or the other. He won't get both, but I'm gonna pick him for both anyway because if he did do both, that'd be crazy. But also, I think I'm actually leaning towards him more as most improved. It feels like he's bound for a really big kind of breakout season. He's maybe had that one breakout when he jumped from the regular season, his rookie year, to the bubble, which if you want to, that might have been, you could make an argument that was really like the start of his second.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think that's why the narrative on him was so weird is because I think that his offseason was that offseason. And then he had less than 2 months not counting any time off. I think it was basically an extension of his sophomore year. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it was a sophomore slump, but I think he's going to be huge for us off the bench. I think Goran carried a lot of the scoring load. I think Lowry won't do that as much, and we're going to really rely on Hero ball handling, especially in the fourth quarter. I think last year even he was still one of the league leaders, or not the league leader in fourth quarter clutch time minutes. So I think he's just going to be a bucket all year long, and I'm picking him for 6 man and most improved. So I guess you can kind of give your pick for most improved if you want.
So most improved. This is probably my it's not. I mean, I don't know how bold this is, but this is my kind of shot. This is my prediction. I've kind of kept it quiet so far. I think that this year's breakout guy, all-star level player, legitimately make an all-star team. I think we're about to watch Darius Garland explode. I'm all in.
I've seen people writing about him. I've seen it, but
I am all in.
Good, then who cares?
I am all in on Darius Garland. This is my I'm putting my stamp on the table here. I think Darius Garland is about to explode. I think he's going to be an unbelievable player. I think he's going to put up massive numbers. I think he's going to be an all-star. I'm saying it right now. I don't care how bad the Cavs are going to be. I'm picking him to make an all-star team. I think Darius Garland is going to be awesome. And I think the narrative around him is going to be, this is the guy the Cavs build around. It's going to be him and Mobley. I think they end up trading Sexton eventually. Maybe in the middle of the year or something. I mean, it wouldn't, I don't know. It makes no sense. They have so many big men already. They need a shooting wing. If there's any of those out there, go for it. But I think just Darius Garland, I'm all in. He's my guy. Most improved player, all-star, breakout guy of the year. That's my guy. So,
all right. I like that. I'm here with that. All right. We want to do
some other guys we just said, the Bridges, Hero, Poole, Keldon Johnson, and one of my sleepers. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker. There's the one Pelicans.
I believe in him too.
I think he's going to break out.
Pelicans are going to need him.
I don't know about most improved player level or nothing like that, but just a guy where everyone's this is the guy the Pelicans build around. Nickeil Alexander.
Out of necessity, that's what's going to happen. But rookies, I really have, you're much more of a draft guy than I am. Rookies, I'm always inclined to pick one of the guards that goes in the top 5 picks.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to be. I think it's Cade versus Jalen Green. I lean Cade because I think the Pistons might be a little bit better than people think. Feisty, young, good team. Dwayne Casey's a veteran coach kind of guy. So I lean Cade, and because he's going to command everything. He's going to be one of those guys that just puts up pretty big numbers because he gets all the assists and all the rebounds and all this kind of stuff along with the scoring. Whereas I think Green is a little bit more of just a one-dimensional scorer right now. I think Green is going to be awesome. I love Jalen Green, but on a team where if you look at it, I just think the Pistons are going to be 10 games better than the Rockets, and that might be the tiebreaker. My sleeper real quick, Josh Giddey. I think Josh Giddey is going to put up big numbers on the Thunder, and I just love Josh Giddey. So just want to shout him out.
I'm going to go with Green then. Partially just to disagree with you, but also I think you kind of said it, the Pistons aren't as bad as people think. They have some pieces on that team, and I think the Rockets are going to be one of the worst teams. Between them and Orlando, I think both those teams should be terrible.
That was another one of my bets, was the Rockets under.
Okay, the Rockets, and then they have Christian Wood, and I really like Christian Wood.
Wood's awesome,
but I think Green is actually going to just have the ball in his hands nonstop and that always makes sense to pick for the rookie of the year. Okay, now without any further ado, let's get into quickly. Let's do our Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals, and then our finals pick. You want to go first, Eli? You know, you're the guest. Why don't you give your explanation first, and then I'll do mine.
Sounds good. So for the East, I really wanted to be like different and be like, listen, like it's so hard. I'm the biggest Heat fan there is. Like I'm a believer. Like they're probably the next closest, just in terms of like playoff, like title equity. But I'm not going to sit here on October 18th or whatever it is and say like the Heat are going to beat the Bucks in May. Like it's tough, right? So Nets Bucks. I was in on the Nets last year. I still think if Kevin Durant's foot was 1 inch shorter, they would have won the title. I think like Nets over Bucks. That's my pick. I wish I could say something different and exciting, but Nets Bucks, and I think Nets over the Bucks.
You want to do West and then finals, or should I? Yeah, why don't you do West?
Yeah, so let's do that. So this is where I am going to be a little bit different. I have the Lakers in the conference finals. And then they're just, I mean, they got LeBron until otherwise, unless they're not healthy, the Lakers are going to be right there. But this is kind of where I'm calling my shot a little bit. I'm calling the Nuggets over the Lakers. Even though I had the Nuggets as the 4, I just think that this team, I think if Jamal Murray doesn't get hurt last year, everything is so different when we're talking about the Nuggets. And I think he got hurt before Kawhi, so I do think he will be back. I just talked about Kawhi won't be back, but I think Jamal Murray will be back. And if Jamal Murray is even 80% of what he was, I think MPJ is about to break out. I think the roster makes a lot of sense now. It always has. They didn't change that much, but I think Jeff Green is a big upgrade over Paul Millsap. That was one of my favorite signings of the offseason too. And I just think like the star power right there, like the Murray, MPJ, Jokic, if Murray is even 80% of what he was, I think, and that's also kind of why I picked Malone to be the coach of the year, is I just think the Nuggets are going to be better than people think. And I think they're going to get hot at the end of the year. And I just, Murray and Jokic together, I'm all in. So I'm calling my shot, and I'm saying Nuggets over Lakers in the
and then finals. You got
Nets and Nuggets, and this is where my dream Nuggets, unfortunately, they fall short. I just think the Nets are going to win the title. With or without Kyrie, doesn't matter to me. You know, they didn't have him for the playoffs last year, or the Bucks series last year. They had James Harden on half a leg, and they were still, you know, an inch away from, again, in my opinion, winning the championship. So, you know,
all right.
The Nets are just so good.
Can't disagree too strongly. I do agree with you at least that Kyrie won't be much of a factor, which is kind of funny, honestly.
But if they get him back, I mean, if they do get him back somehow, say he gets vaccinated in like March or whatever, this is over.
Yeah,
like
it's
barring health, which is obviously always there, this is over.
And I'm glad that I can, you know, use that as like a reason why they are slightly less talented without Kyrie. So I think that's going to be a reason that I'm going to pick the Bucks to make it out of the East. But having said, KD and Harden, there's not another duo as good as them other than maybe LeBron and Davis. Anyway, I digress. So, you know, I was in a similar boat to you, Eli. I was kind of trying to talk myself into other teams. The East was pretty simple for me. I'm going with the Bucks over the Heat, actually. That's my same pick as last year. I think that the Nets, you know, something's gonna go awry. I'm not gonna bank on their health. You know, you weren't gonna bank on which team's health was it? Indiana. I kind of believe similarly that they're a team that health-wise, you know, I don't really believe in them. And they're getting older, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm also gonna be that homer and at least pick the Heat to make the conference finals, because I really am expecting a big year out of Tyler and Bam, especially. So
and I am too. I'm all in the Heat too. It's hard.
And the talent is on the paper.
It wouldn't surprise me, but
yeah, you can't really go against the Nets or Bucks, even though I'm doing that. But I'm gonna pick the Bucks over them. I'm not gonna jinx my team either. And the Bucks, like, so a lot of people are sleeping on them. I think the
Bucks are awesome.
The title like hangover team is going to be really Phoenix, in my opinion. Like Phoenix is going to have a tougher time coming back from that run. Whereas the Bucks, like, I think they're going to be even hungrier. Like they have a chip on their shoulder already. They're already like doing the whole, like, oh, everyone's counting us out. Like they don't think we're going to win it. Very similar to kind of the Raptors title defense in the bubble in 2020, when, you know, a lot of people counted them out. But they just really didn't have the talent at the end of the day, which the Bucks still have the talent. And Giannis in that playoff series, like I think he jumped a level. Like he jumped a tier, in my opinion, where he figured something out. And he just was like, no one can stop me, you know? And it's almost sometimes what we want Ben Simmons to do, and he just doesn't do it. And Giannis is like, in my opinion, like the best case scenario of like the mindset that Ben Simmons would need to have.
I agree.
So,
Giannis is so awesome, man.
So he's
just
awesome. Drew Holiday, Middleton again, like they're running it back. And now I don't know how much this matters, but Giannis played 3 preseason games and he shot 66%
shot really well.
Yeah. He had that one game where he just didn't make,
he
was looking like Duncan Robinson. So even if his 3-point shot's falling a little bit better than it normally does, he's still so young. What is he like, 27?
26. Yeah, he's like, he turns 27 in December. I'm 6 months older. He's 6 months older than me.
That's right wild. Like that's so wild. So I'm gonna pick the Bucks. Out west, I was laughing when you made your pick because I was close to picking the Nuggets over the Lakers because I really believe in their team. I love the pieces they have around their 2 stars, Murray and Jokic. Jokic is amazing. I think Aaron Gordon is like a really perfect piece next to them. Didn't even mention Michael Porter Jr., who, like, he has all the talent in the world. So that team is going to be dirty. I do think they will make the conference finals, but I can't pick against LeBron just yet. Like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've always loved Westbrook. I know you always say you're a Westbrook guy too. I would love for him to be able to kind of make a finals appearance, especially when like people always want to act like he can't translate to winning when like his situations haven't been like the best, or like there's it hasn't all been on him, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to pick the Lakers over the Nuggets. So we got Lakers and Bucks in the finals, which is one that I think I might have picked honestly the last 2 years. Maybe it's a theme for me this episode. I'm just going to kind of keep picking these things until they stop making sense because they, the last 2
I'm
years,
the exact opposite. I kept talking about like, I need to see it actually happen. I keep going against it. So you and I definitely flip-flopped this year.
For sure. And I think like 2 years ago when he made the playoffs or made the finals, not a lot of people saw it. I don't think anyone saw it really preseason. I did make that pick as a homer pick, but then ever since then I stopped doing it.
I bet right before the trade deadline that the Heat would make the finals at the Eastern Conference. Yeah. And then I'm an idiot and I cashed out during the bubble pandemic. During the pandemic.
I won so much money from the Heat that season.
It was because it was during the pandemic. I didn't even know what was going to happen. Like I was just like, let me just get my money. I don't know what the bubble is going to look like. I don't even know if we're going to play. I don't know if I lose this bet. I don't know if I get just my money back. I had a profit with it. So I was like, if I just get my $30 back or whatever it was, like, let me make it into a little bit of a profit and just go to sleep. So
they put a lot of money in my pocket.
I did bet on them. So like the theory was there.
Actually, the last 2 years, because then I bet on them that year a lot. And then I bet on the Bucks a lot last year. But this season, I'm still like, this is probably still the emotional pick, but I'm gonna pick Lakers over Bucks. And it's still one of those things for me when I just look at the last 10 years. And I think I kind of touched on this earlier. Like, it's always in my head been like teams that can't compete with LeBron and teams that can't. And like, I'm just gonna give them a benefit of the doubt. They are super old, but
I just worry about the shooting around the team. Like
really,
Russell. Because they've got guys that can shoot, but they don't have guys that can shoot. And like Monk can shoot, but that's it. Nunn can kind of shoot, but that's it. Wayne Ellington can shoot, but that's it. So when you put the shooters on the team, I just feel like whenever you talk about like the best Lakers lineups, whoever you say like who's their best 5, who's their second best 5, whatever, none of those are going to have shooting on them unless you just put one of those guys in. And then I worry about everything else.
That's what I think is going to happen. And I think because of that, you're going to need Davis to be a defensive monster. You're going to need LeBron to be very engaged on defense, which he still can do.
No, I think LeBron, I don't think I worry about those two. Russ is a horrible defender.
Well, I'm just saying those two, Russ is the guy I worry about, but I'm hoping that Vogel, who I'm not a fan of, Frank Vogel, Vogel's awesome, dude. He's a good defensive coach. I'm not a fan of him, but I think he's a good defensive coach. Hopefully he can figure it out. Hopefully LeBron can talk with Westbrook. And Westbrook, I think it's never like he doesn't have the ability. It's always he loses attention, or people catch him on the back door, or he's ball chasing. He's too ambitious. Yeah. So if he can be a more disciplined defender, then I think that's something that's key for them. It pains me that they lost Caruso because I think he was so key for them. But then I think you're gonna have a lineup where it's like you're gonna have Malik Monk, who's gonna be weak on defense. You're gonna have Kendrick Nunn, who's gonna be weak, although he has flashes time to time.
Anytime he gets screened, it's game over.
Yeah.
If Kendrick Nunn gets screened, the other team has scored. It's over.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be like LeBron and Davis kind of kind of holding them accountable on defense, and then offense. Like they should really be a dirty offensive team, so long as they figure everything out with Westbrook and LeBron, whatever pick and rolls they want to run and things like that. And even THT's a guy who like
he's hurt right now.
He's hurt. Crazy. Whatever he looks like this season he might be a big X factor for them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So yeah, I think that's all. We touched on everything. I think, Eli, we did it. We might have to split this up into two parts because it was so long. But I'm glad we did it. It was long overdue. It's been a long time since the last Double Take episode, but it was great.
It's been a pleasure, man. I'm definitely excited. I'm just quick 30-second soapbox. I cannot wait for basketball to be back. I'm just so excited. I'm sure all the listeners agree, and I know you agree. In what is it now? 6 o'clock Eastern time, like in 24 hours from right at this moment, sooner than that when it gets released, we'll have NBA basketball on, and I just cannot wait. So definitely excited. Go Nuggets. Make me look good. Go Heat, obviously, and watch out for Darius Garland. That's my stamp on this episode.
All right. We'll quote you on that one. Those are your 3 ones.
No, I just hope he doesn't get hurt. That's the only thing. If he gets hurt, this is just gonna be ugly. I'd rather at least just watch him. But hope he gets healthy or stays healthy. Excuse me, he's healthy, thank God. But go Darius Garland. I'm telling you guys, watch out.
For sure. Well, Eli, it's been a major pleasure as always. Thank you for being on. Thank you for being the third wheel of Double Take.
Always. Anytime you guys want me, let me know. I'm on. I'm ready. I'm super excited. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. John, I'm sure he's going to help with editing or whatever. So shout out John. We miss him, but we miss John. But hopefully I'll get to catch up with you guys soon, and hopefully we can do another episode sometime soon. But
thanks, Eli. Much love, bro. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you for listening. Go Heat.